retconned, and I had noticed it, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm just losing it. But basically it was the person who found it on retcon was One Day Closer, with 2 R's on the end of closer. So good observation. But basically what they noticed was, and it seems like a tiny thing, but this actually did happen to me like a bunch of times this week even. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, obviously this is one you could just write off and say, but so I bought some stuff, and then I was waiting for it to come. Online I bought some stuff, like Amazon. And I was like, I actually bought some stuff for the horses because I volunteer at that horse rescue, and I wanted to buy some training treats and stuff. And I'm like, waiting. I can't wait till it comes. Doesn't come. I'm like, I'm going to check the status. I check, and it says I never bought it. And so, like, okay, maybe I just thought I clicked it, but I was sure I clicked it. So that same day, I responded to some work emails saying, I forgot, I was like, yes, I want more of those or something. And then later I see it, and it doesn't look like I ever responded. I mean, there's no record of me having sent my responses. So I'm like, well, maybe it just a glitch or something. It's just a couple of those happened where I'm sure I did that, and I've been for years now pretty good about making sure I push enter. And these are also the kind, like Amazon, it's hard to forget because they have the 1-page order. So, sometimes you click enter like 3 times and you think you're done and you got to do it one more time. I mean, that happens on PayPal a lot. But these are not the kind of pages where that happens. Like, you typed up your thing, you just have to press enter once. So it's just been weird. But that person also, there was like all these people going, yes, that happened 2-3 times this week. Yes, it happened 2-3 times this week. So I don't think I would think anything of it, except for there were just so many people saying it happened multiple times in 1 week. That's kind of a lot for anybody, and then there's all these people on there. So also there's just like a ton more people still saying time slips, like a couple times in one day, weird time slips where the clock is crazy. And one person even had a story where they were in school and it was like time to leave, and then suddenly it was 10 minutes before time to leave, and even other kids in the class were going, I thought it was like a minute before time to leave, and now it's 10 minutes before. I mean, when you're a kid and it's almost time to go, you're like watching that clock. So there was, I guess, more than one kid going, what? How did we get saddled with 10 more minutes? So that whole day apparently was weird for that person too. So I don't know. There has been several of those for me this week, but I didn't have it tacked down enough to know for sure. But so hair color, yeah, I did dye it. So it's just the same old color, but it kind of gets faded. So I just did the roots and stuff. So, yeah, it's not a Mandela. I did dye it. I was just trying to remember if I did it this week or last week, but yes, it was just a few days ago. So that is not another timeline, but negativity in the air. So the other thing I would just say is it's been another, like, I wonder physically if there's a shift, because I've just been really tired the last few days, just like really tired. Sort of brain foggy, and it's been a while since I've been this tired. So, I don't know. Hopefully it'll pass soon. I've also noticed online there's just a lot of early deaths. I've been again hearing a lot of early deaths. When's the last time I saw this many? Probably it was 2019. I remember commenting on that in 2019 that a lot of people, but most of those people weren't this early. Like, these people, a lot of them are like 20s and 30s. So, I mean, obviously there's certain things that have happened starting in 2020 that some people are blaming it on, and then others are blaming it on the other thing that happened after that. But it just seems like a lot, and the delay from the the new medical treatment to now is kind of a ways. So I tend to think that there is just a lot of timeline shifting going, and people are leaving for that reason, from, you know, like a more spiritual level versus the more mundane level. I tend to think of it that way. The story. Okay, Shari she was looking at the story of a skier who went missing in Canada and found in California has changed. I guess the details. I didn't know the story to start with, so I wouldn't know if it changed. But now he's not missing in Canada. He's missing from New York. More info on the guy. Yeah, that one, I don't know. Oh, you guys are talking about tea. You know, the one tea that I've been consuming lately, herbal, is lemongrass. I mean, I've had it before, and I think we stopped having it in the house because it was attracting bees, and we have a lot of bees, and they were getting too attracted to us personally. But I started drinking it at work now, and I don't think I've ever done it in a tea, though. We were just using it kind of like a perfume, and, you know, that really attracts the bees. I did not know that, but yes, they love it. At least they did last year, and I'm not testing it to see if it's still the case, but that was amazingly good. Somebody served it to me, and I was like, yeah, tea, you know, tea's good. I'm like, oh, this is so good. Okay, so that weirdness, I personally, for the last month, have just been getting a ton of those. Like, I look at the time and it's 3:33. I look at the time as 4:44. You know, I look at, okay, how much is this going to cost? $4.44. You know, 333 and 444, or 3333 or 4444 are the ones I'm getting a lot of. Sometimes it's 1111. So I don't, you know, it's funny because I know this has been going on for years, but I wasn't getting it until the last few months. So I was sort of like, well, whatever, you know, obviously deep inside, I'm sure my brain knows what time it is, and it just is telling me to look at the right time, but it is still an interesting thing to have happen. And ironically, now it's sort of like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, that thing again. You know, it's just almost like I don't even think it's a big deal anymore. We had a long conversation here about the missing guy. I don't know. Now I don't know. Skier went missing from New York mountain slopes, ends up 6 days later in California, still wearing ski clothes. I don't remember the convo, honestly. I keep thinking, well, maybe I'll remember it, but I don't. Constantino Danny Philippidis tells police he couldn't remember how he got there. Still wearing ski clothes. Well, I think in the old days we'd say it's alien abduction, but now I don't even know what to say. I mean, obviously maybe he hit his head, he went on some kind of neurotic thing, but, you know, these days, who knows? He ended up in Sacramento, California, where he contacted the police and gave his name, saying he had been missing from New York. Showed up in his snow trousers, carrying his ski helmet. Thought he had suffered a head injury. Had been a passenger in a truck and slept a lot. He got a haircut and bought the phone to call his wife. When we asked him how he got there, he couldn't remember. He was skiing, and that's the last he remembered. He told officers he remembered being dropped off in Sacramento carrying a credit card which he used to withdraw cash, but had no formal identification on him. Okay, if you go skiing, I could see you just bring like one card or something. I don't know, but then I don't even think I would bring one card because it's not like you expect to find an ATM machine on the slopes. Or maybe you do, actually. Maybe up at the top or something. And then if you lose it, you could just call in and cancel it. So yeah, I think it would make sense to carry like one credit card. He was discharged with no reported sign of any injuries. That's interesting because, I think if you hit your head, even 6 days later, you're going to feel a knot, especially if you hit it hard enough to like lose 6 days of time. I think you're going to feel a knot on your head somewhere. There's going to be a bruise. There's at least a bruise. I mean, if not a cut or something, but you should have a sore spot. I just can't see that the skin would be completely 100% recovered in 6 days. Huh. Weird. Yeah, there's no info beyond that, is there? Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. Let's see if I can get that to stop. All right. I'm going to put live chat on. Press said he went missing in 2018, but for me it was 219 to 220. Shall you're good at dates, because I don't think I would really remember so easily on most of them. Logical Danger also remembers a Canadian guy. Okay, Shari's got another case. How Russian man flew from Europe to LAX with no ticket. Oh, you know what? I think they were talking about this on Retconned. But I thought it was an older one. I didn't realize it just happened. A Russian man flew from Europe to Los Angeles without a passport, visa, or even a ticket. The man claimed to be confused and couldn't remember getting on the plane or how he was able to get past security. Oh, that's weird. Now, they should be able to look at airport security records, right? Like, you have to check. I don't know. How is it in Russia? But maybe they don't. But here you've got to check in. And you scan your ID to get in the line for the plane. And there's multiple places where you have to show your ticket and stuff. When he showed up in LA, he had no passport or visa, was not listed as a passenger. Okay, so from a logical perspective, the only thing I can imagine is he's lying and he did something sneaky, or maybe he like lost his stuff like somewhere, or someone stole it, or and he got confused. So two of those things could happen. Then he could get through on his passport and blah 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 and then lose them. They found Russian and Israeli identification cards. Israeli identification cards. Why does he have Israeli identification cards? Huh. He is believed to be Russian. He said he had worked as an economist in Russia and was provided with Russian translator. During the flight, Ochigava wandered around the plane and kept changing seats. He also asked for 2 meals during meal service and at one point tried to eat some chocolate that actually belonged to the cabin crew. Huh. He claimed he had not slept for 3 days and did not understand what was happening. Oh, this is weird. So the crew had conducted a head count before leaving, and then upon landing, there was 1 extra person. That's pretty strange. So if he was trying to be sneaky or a liar, I don't think he'd be like wandering around eating someone else's chocolate and just being weird. I mean, that would talk about dedication to your part. He had a seat. That's a tough one. I guess there's always possible ways, but like maybe he was somehow in some kind of luggage. Did they even X-ray the stuff that goes under the plane, maybe, and snuck out? But again, it is interesting. I mean, I'm sure in the old days I would have just assumed there was a logical explanation, but nowadays, I don't know. Every week it's stranger. If time can slip and speed up and you can lose an hour, then some guy, it's not that weird to think some guy was teleported onto a plane, and it's not weird anymore. A surprising number of Israelis have dual Russian citizenship. I think if I remember right, I had never heard of this until recently. So I don't know if it was always the thing in my timeline or I just hadn't heard of it or what. But apparently a lot of Jewish people, Israelis, came from Russia. And there was a point where Israel decided to allow the Russian Jews in. I'm trying to think if I remember that happening. I don't know if there's some kind of vague notion in my head. Maybe I did remember that, but I'm just not sure. So that would probably explain why there's a lot that came over from that. They still have the Russian. So, okay, that actually, now that you say that, I guess it wouldn't be that weird then. So, but you would think unless he's new, he would speak Israeli. But maybe they didn't have an Israeli, maybe they didn't have the right translator to even test that. I don't know. Small guy stowed away in overhead area. I don't know what planes they have coming out of Russia, but I mean, the planes I've been on, there's no way anybody's going to get up in there. I mean, you can barely fit your luggage up there. Climbing up there would be so incredibly obvious, even if you were the first person in trying to climb up there. If there was a huge, body bag size thing up there, I think I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. That would be, and there's stewardesses around at the end of the aisle. They would probably notice. I can't see that happening. And with all of the paranoia, I am sure that anybody else who saw it would be like, excuse me, Mr. Pilot, but there's a guy hiding in the overhead bins. All right. So yeah, that is interesting. So I keep thinking lately, I'm like, this is really getting crazy lately. I don't know, how far is this going to go? I mean, is time going to break down, to a very large extent or what? Or is it going to settle down? All right. So that's that one we just had. This one was I was just looking through stuff, and we've had the frogfish on before when I first started seeing it years ago. I haven't seen this style of one with these weird triangles. One little thing that I saw mentioned when I was looking up other stuff was they said frogfish can change colors. And that was a new factor for me. I don't remember that they could. Then I was looking for the information on the color change. I wanted to see how it looked like. And so currently they're saying that they can change colors, but it takes several weeks. Now, all the other places that said they can change colors, look at this one. This one's also a really bizarre look. It looks like some kind of beautiful gemstone or something. I haven't seen that one. There's a lot of cool ones now. Yeah, so anyway, they were saying, they can change colors, and they would show a video, and the whole sentence and everything was written now I would be looking at the video of the frogfish that changes colors, but I didn't see any color changing, so what the heck is that? It looked like porcupines with mushrooms growing in their fur. I'm going to have to look that up. Anyway, so I kind of feel like maybe I caught it on the early part, and they're gonna change colors more, because I saw many vague references to how they can change colors. I couldn't find any video of it, and then finally I just saw this. It takes a couple weeks, so maybe it's phasing in. I'm just looking up this porcupine. Do porcupines get mushrooms in their fur? Oh, was that a hedgehog? Hedgehog. Hedgehog. That might have been a hedgehog. Okay, maybe it was a joke because they do kind of look like they were just stuck on there. And maybe they were talking about hedgehog mushrooms. All right. You never know anymore. Okay, this is a bizarre one. This is another one. Like, where is this going? I've had on before about that they did this thing called follies in the past, and follies were when the British aristocrats would build like fake ruins in their landscaping. Of course, they looked like real ruins. So I'm like, is this like a cover story to hide real ruins that were in their landscaping? They had these giant estates that were beautiful, and they had ruins in them, and they could say, oh, those are just like reproduced ruins. They're not original ruins. Maybe they are original ruins, and it's a way to hide like the Tartaria stuff, right? It's just whenever ruins show up that don't fit the narrative, you say they were reproduced as a style and landscaping style. Okay, so, and I just didn't remember them having that. So now there's sort of like this new thing, which is even stranger. But I had noticed that they were also mentioning the follies. Apparently now the story is it was quite popular up until about 1830, which conveniently is about the end of memory of living people. There's not going to be many people that were old enough to remember this, because you'd have to be like at least 5 to remember it, and it was like 100 years ago almost. Okay, so apparently they kept like hermits in their estate, like it's like your pet hermit. Like it was a person, and the person, they would build like a little shelter for them, like a little cave or like a tree home or something. And they would make a deal like you could live here for free in exchange for being a hermit. So you had to there would be a deal made, like you have to dress certain kind of clothes, and they would be like, often you do like a druidic style, so you look like a druid, and then you were supposed to grow out your hair and your fingernails, which I find extra creepy, so that you look like some kind of hermit. And then you would, like, some of them were supposed to like read poetry to visitors, and they would you'd be like your pet dog or your pet, goat, but it would be a pet hermit. The ornamental hermit doesn't sound very ornamental, because I guess a lot of them didn't bathe and were even told not to be more realistic. So this one was told he must wear a goat's hair robe and never cut his hair, nails, or beard. Shoes were out of the question. Let's see. If he were to live in solitary contemplation without stepping foot outside this state for 7 years, he would be paid 500 to 700 pounds, I guess that is, which is about 95 to 130,000 today. 3 weeks after arriving, he was discovered drinking at a local pub, so the legend goes. So he did not get his payment, but apparently this was a whole thing. England's 18th century ornamental hermit craze. It's funny because this one's calling it a short-lived trend that peaked roughly at 727 in 1830. So wait, 1727 and 1830 was 100 years. So that's a short-lived trend. 100 years. I mean, like, not to me. One of the most memorable something to come out of the era shift from perfectly pruned geometric line gardens to wild, untamed ones in which irregularities of asymmetry of nature were charmingly inspirational. Blah, blah, blah. Here's some of the styles of the eccentric hermit. By the Middle Ages, hermits were thick on the ground, says Harwood. Famous medieval figures who lived at least part of their lives in isolated introspection included Pope Celestine V. I don't know, a bunch of people I never heard of. During England's Georgian period. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. But, so they would have a thing in the yard called a hermitage. So it might be like a little hut, or like might be like a cave, or built to look like a pile of stones, but inside was kind of nice. I mean, in a way, it would be kind of nice to have, you know, everything fed and all this, and all you had to do was like wear certain clothes. But I could imagine it'd be kind of boring. You're not supposed to leave that much. Apparently, a lot of them were retired landscapers, so they would putter around the garden, doing this and that little chores. Ironically, this guy looks like a hermit here. An advertiser offered 300 lira to a hermit who would remain bearded in a state of picturesque dirtiness for 6 months in the year in an artificial cave at a suitable distance from the house, just far enough, but not too far, for the fashionable house party with its court of subservient poets and painters to visit. Okay. Okay, people would also apply for the job. Interesting. While silence was treasured on some estates, not every ornamental hermit was expected to live in total seclusion. One of the most famous English garden hermits, Father Francis, lived at Hawkstone. He was a tourist attraction. Okay, so has anybody ever heard of this? Ornamental garden hermits? There's another picture of it. Okay, so we have fake ruins. Now we have, like, fake druids. You know, I don't know if these weird vases and pillars were really common, but I have this old, I don't even know how old it is. It's a tapestry that has this style of stuff on it. And, I mean, it's obviously some kind of antique, but I have really no idea if it's like, I mean, it's probably fairly old, but I don't know if it's like 100 years old or 60 years old or 200 years old. I don't even know how to tell on those. But it has, I'm looking at this, I'm like, it's just like this. It's got almost this exact thing on it. And then there's some people in that classic garb, like fishing. They're obviously rich people. By the 19th century, ornamental hermits had fallen out of favor, in part due to abolitionist concerns over the exploitive conditions under which these recluses lived. You know, it's kind of weird. I'm like, abolitionists are worried about the hermits, but they're there voluntarily. I don't really see an issue because clearly, if you didn't like it, you could give the finger and stomp off. So the hermit was someone who you could go to for, like, advice, apparently. I just kind of wonder, like, what is this all coming to? Lately, it's just gotten that weird where I'm like, so is this going to be like, is this going to turn out to be like some kind of a cover story? Like they said these hermits were this, but really they were druids left over from ancient times, or and the ruins were really real ruins, but they claim they were fake. Because it's such a bizarre thing. Logical Danger thinks I covered the hermits. Huh, interesting. I remember covering the follies, but I don't remember covering the hermits. You know, I swear the old movies, I really think some of them have changed a lot. And so, like, say when I was 30 or even like a little past that, I would look at old episodes of shows and they were how I remembered them. And I didn't go like, but the last maybe 8 years or less maybe, but I look back at old shows and they just, have I changed that much? Has the show changed? I just, they suddenly, a lot of them, not all of them, like last time I looked at, say, Little House on the Prairie or, what is that one? Leave It to Beaver. Those ones looked about the same. But there was a few others like the old Battlestar Galacticas and Buck Rogers in the 21st century. Those looked so different than I remember, like way cornier, way sluttier, just like suddenly I'm just looking at it going, this is crap, you know, this is terrible crap. This is not the crap I used to listen to. My stuff was still crap, but not this bad, you know? So I don't know what's going on with that. Why it suddenly looks like the quality looks heavily degraded. And there's definitely been some specific changes that I've noticed in things as well. Just like little details and stuff. So like you see the costume changes and stuff. So I'm like, okay, did it go as far as to just change the overall quality and style and flair of it from what I recall? Hermit crabs. Yeah, seriously, the ultimate hermit crabs. I mean, they were cheesy, but I just didn't remember them being like that. And so I don't know how much it is that I grew up. The thing is, if I was 30 and I look back, I think I should have seen it by the time I was 30. I mean, have I really evolved so much in the past 8 years that suddenly now it looks completely different? Hearst Castle. So I was near Hearst Castle, but I didn't go because they were, I don't know, was busy looking for jade, because Jade Cove is right near Hearst Castle. If you've ever been to Hearst Castle along the 1 freeway in California, or is that a freeway? The 1. It's like a windy road that goes along the coast. Like it's super windy in spots, like super windy. If you go to Hearst Castle and you have any interest in jade or stones, because you can also get really nice serpentine along, and you'll find more serpentine than jade. And serpentine it looks like jade, it's just a little softer, but it's a really nice stone. I would recommend that you do it. The only thing I will say is it's kind of a steep road down there, so you know, if you're not sure-footed, like it might not be the right plan for you. And you got to go way up down this hill, which means you got to go way back up the hill, which means you have to be in reasonably good shape. So I didn't go in because I'm like, I could pay a bunch of money to see Hearst Castle, or I could just get more jade. And I voted for get more jade. Highway 1 is a scary road. I just get, you know, I do a lot of rock hounding, so I'm fairly used to those turny, twisty roads, but I just get tired, you know, just like an hour of it, and it's like, this Orion, oh, that's a good point. These Orion Earths has less time to prepare and produce movies and TV shows. Maybe. I have to say, I really am feeling it more and more. I feel like every year is that I don't have time to get my work done like I used to. Like, I used to do some work, and then I had a lot of time to kind of goof off. So I could watch, like, all these shows on TV and do all this internet surfing and then go to work and then work kind of hard and get it done. But now I just feel like this year I've actually sold less this year than in past years. I've run out of certain things that I can't get anymore. They've fallen out of favor. And I just haven't kept up with finding new stuff. So some of it's kind of my fault. The economy was a little down. So I've sold less stuff. But I'm having so much trouble getting it shipped. You know, like, I just feel like I'm working all the time. And, you know, it's only going to be for a few weeks and then it'll go back to normal. But I just don't remember having this much trouble before. Like, I feel like if we have that pandemic level sales where my sales were through the roof, I don't know if I could get the stuff shipped, because it takes just as long to pack and ship it in the old time. But in the new time, that's like twice as much time, and there's just not enough time. So it's like I'm sleeping and then I get up and then I'm working and then I'm sleeping and that's it. And I'm like less, you know, I'm getting less done. There is no quality in anything in this timeline. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, there's not a lot of quality. Although some of the old stuff is still really nice. But in fact, some of the really old stuff is nicer than ever. Sagittarius Earths were slow time, like in the Shawshank Redemption. So, you know, I heard a lot of people complaining, you know, it takes 45 minutes to get ready in the morning instead of a half hour. But the thing is, when you work for somebody else, you know, if you get less done, you're still getting paid the same. But I don't. Like, if I get less done, I get paid less. So even the spices lose their aroma in no time here, even if you put them in the fridge. Interesting. I just noticed that stuff just doesn't stay hot. I mean, I know I've said this before, but it's like, okay, so I was boiling some noodles, so I can take my fork and stab it into the noodle, and it was just boiling. I mean, it is boiling. I can stab it in there, and literally within like 2 seconds, I can pop that noodle in my mouth, and I won't burn my mouth. In the old days, you really had to sit there and be like blowing on that. You couldn't do that. And same with steak. I can cut a piece off while it's still in the oven, like pull out the oven, just open the door and slide it, cut off a piece, you know, and taste it like within seconds. And I would have burned the heck out of my mouth with that. I mean, because that's actually hot fat instead of just hot pasta. You could never do that before. And you can't even get it to the table steaming. Like in the old days, that would steam for like 5 minutes. But by the time you get it on the plate and find the silverware, it's done steaming. It's like almost lukewarm already. Did you read about how they couldn't open the canisters from the Bennu asteroid sample? What? They still can't get them open? What? That's a crazy story. I just made noodles. Yeah, they got, you know, like, you just make them. You have to put them in the microwave. And I have mentioned that I've seen, like, multiple reviews lately of people complaining on restaurants that the food is cold. They used to bring it out hot, but now they bring it out cold. I'm betting that their processes hasn't changed at all. So people who don't cook are not going to be noticing that they only notice that the food doesn't come out hot. They're not going to, like, figure out why. Okay, that Bennu, let me see. Canisters from the Bennu asteroid. Bennu asteroid. All right, Smithsonian to open first public display of asteroid Bennu sample. Okay, shows example. It looks like they opened it now, though. Samples show evidence of carbon content in water. All right, what's the date of this article? October 11, 2023. So what, they just opened them? We've had scientists and engineers working side by side for years to develop specialized glove boxes and tools to keep the asteroid material pristine and to curate the samples so researchers now and decades from now can study this precious gift from the cosmos. That's pretty weird. So what, you get the samples, but it takes you 2 years to be able to open them safely? The narrative, I kind of just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm reaching, but I really feel like some of these are just like narrative excuses to explain things, like to try to keep some kind of somewhat logical narrative as things shift around. So like they have these samples for 2 years, but for some reason the data is not going to show up till now. So why? There has to be some stupid story, or, well, ideally some good story. But what if you can't think of a good story? Then a stupid story will be why, and so this is the story. I mean, I don't know, but it just feels like that to me. The screws are frozen shut. I don't see, that's not the story I'm getting though. Bennu sample, Bennu. Screws frozen shut. All right, so are they just typical? I think you're gonna have to provide me a link or something. I'm not the squishy space rock that almost swallowed a spacecraft? Do you remember anything about that? Bennu, one of the 3 best explored asteroids in the entire universe. Bennu, a conglomeration of dirt, gravel, and pebbles, held together by weak gravitational forces, nearly swallowed up Osiris-Rex like a swamp, ejecting a wall of debris into space that threatened the spacecraft's safety. Do you remember any of that happening? I just remember it going bloop, and I don't remember. This is crazy town. So Bennu, it's not that big. I mean, like, they're saying its gravity holds it together, but all right, so Bennu's the size of the Empire State Building. But yet that would have enough gravity to hold itself together. They're saying it's held together by gravity. It's not a chunk of rock. But I mean, if you like pitch the Empire State Building out into orbit, is it going to have its own gravity? Not enough to hold itself together. I don't know. This is kind of a weird story. I don't remember anything about Bennu almost swallowing the lander, though. A mass of gravel and dirt ejected from the Bennu. That looks fake. It looks totally fake, that image. Let's see. Open image, a new tab. It looks like really poor quality Photoshop or something. I don't remember anything about that. I don't remember it looking like, it does look like a giant dirt clod. I don't remember it being a giant. Well, okay, let's put it this way. I'm not even sure if I remember one called Bennu. I do remember us landing on an asteroid. And it was a big hairy deal. And, but it didn't look like a dirt clod. So I'm not really sure if that was Bennu. Maybe it was a different one. It was a big deal, though. We landed on an asteroid, and I don't remember us doing it since then. It was just that one. So maybe we did it a bunch of times now. All right. It was in Google News today. They should change the NASA's name to Pinocchio headquarters. So I guess from like a more of a conventional bunch of liars type of perspective, like NASA gets this stuff and they don't want to say what's in it, so they can just say, well, we haven't been able to open it yet. I don't know. Renee Cruz is teasing me with her pancit noodles, delicious sounding dinner. It does sound really good. I actually really love those pancit noodles. I think they're rice noodles, and they're made with rice, but they're really tasty. And then just like stir fry in some meat. It's so good. With those limitations in place, the team has been unable to remove the last two fasteners opening the sample. You tell me you can't open a sample? You can't, like NASA can't get two frozen screws out? It's really bad. I'll send my mechanic down. He'll fix it up for you. Yes, Queenie, the recall vector issue. I am aware of certain accusations. So it started out with the belief of recall vector that Moneybags 73 is an AI program, but many of us have seen him before. He is alive. I mean, people I know have met him and stuff. So apparently, since I mentioned that I believe that Moneybags was in fact real, I was now accused of being an AI program. So what can I say? No, I'm not an AI, okay? But whatever. I don't want, it's just not worth worrying about too much. It's somebody's opinion. It made me look like a demon. I don't know. But see, he's done a whole bunch of people. Actually, mine's not as bad as, like, say, Moneybags is. So basically what he does is he finds video and he just blows up really large, and then he tries to look for any visual thing that looks a little off. So, the quality of these uploads as far as pixels is kind of weak. So if you blow it up a lot, it's going to look a little crappy, and that's basically what it is. So, like, there was one where he's like, oh, that thumb looks weird there or something. I didn't actually think it looked that weird, but whatever. It's just an opinion. I don't think you should worry about it too much. I consider it free advertising, so it doesn't bother me. So he also did... Let's see. Oh, Quantum of Conscious, apparently, according to him, is an AI. And I don't know who all else, but he's basically just went... I have a feeling if you do it to anybody that has low quality video or medium quality video. And it's kind of interesting because my video is a little higher quality than the one he did from Moneybags 73. And so the anomalies are more subtle. I think if I had like really high-end video, you're just not going to see it. It's only when the video or the signal is weak that you can have that. So, I think there might be some mental health issues there as well. So that's why I'm not going to like go too crazy on it. Because I don't know, the shifting has been hard on everybody, and I think it's just been extra hard on some people. They're just not making the adaptation. And yeah, no, he's convinced Matt's an AI. So Queenie, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I looked at it and I was expecting it to be worse. I was like, oh, all right, that video, I look kind of good in that video. It was not like one of my bad hair day videos. I didn't find like anything super bad looking. I don't know. Maybe I have to admit I am a little insecure on my look sometimes. I'm definitely trying to work on it, but yeah, I think, Shari, I think that's more like it, is that I'm not taking it personally, and let's just say it could have been far worse. So yeah, so how come people think Matt can't be an AI? I don't know. I don't know what it is about Matt, but it is hard to imagine him being an AI, I guess, with his cats. Like, oh yeah, well, okay. So there is a rumor that Moneybags is my brother. No, he is not my brother. And I want to laugh about it, but it actually isn't the stupidest concept, because we're both like the same nationality. We have kind of a similar look. If I didn't dye my hair, it would probably be kind of like his. And we cover the same subject. We have kind of a similar style, although he has the voting videos, and he actually does better quality videos. I mean, he spends more time and does little individual videos per subject. But I did originally start doing it that way, but I just didn't have the time. I mean, there's no time left on a day, so I don't do it like that anymore. But I like his style. And, he does... And also, he was there first, and so when I was thinking of how I wanted to do videos, I liked his setup. I mean, he's not the only one who does that setup, but it probably did influence me on some level to do them. I don't do them exactly like him, but I like the general format of having my image in the side, so you could see me, because I know a lot of people prefer that. And so, there's that. And then we also, I don't know his exact where he is now, but I know he used to be in California at some point. He comes here sometimes. I think it's up north more, but I am also in California. Then he's got, his name is Evan, and then my name is Eva. So I can see it. I mean, we aren't, but I can see why people got that. I have a feeling it was a game of like telephone, the old-fashioned telephone, because, you say, well, I wonder if Eva and Evan are related. She looks like she could be the sister. Like, say somebody says that. But then somebody else, like 20 people hear that, and one of them goes, oh, I heard Evan is Eva's sister. They leave out the nuance, and then pretty soon it's being spread. And it's plausible. It is not actually true, but it is plausible. It is very upsetting that he did that. See, I wasn't that upset by it. It's kind of interesting, because I thought, like, it sucks to be Moneybags, because Moneybags is sort of at the top. Well, I would say he is at the top, not even sort of, as far as popularity of Mandela videos, at least on YouTube. Now, I don't know about on TikTok. I think he's on TikTok too, though, but... So I was like, it sucks to be the top, because you get targeted and you get the hate. You get the love, but you get the hate, And so then it happened to me, and I'm like, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. Actually, it wasn't that bad. You look beautiful in the video until you started doing things in video. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't think it was that bad. I think Moneybags got raked over. So what he's basically does is he changes, if you take video, you have the option of changing the, what do you call that? I want to say the gain, but it's not gain. It's the difference between the light and the dark. So it makes everything look sharper. Like I do this to photos sometimes to kind of make the image pop out a little bit more. I do it for some of the stuff I sell. The lighting is sucky and you can't really see the detail. You can't do it too much because the item comes in, the people can't say like, oh, that doesn't look like the photo, but you want to do it enough so they can see it. So stuff can sort of look like really sharp and every little imperfection will kind of get exaggerated. So that's what he does to them, where he'll change the lighting and trying to like bring out every little imperfection. So of course you don't look as good when it's like that, but Basically, he's just looking for stuff that he thinks is anomalous. And then if he sees something in there that maybe the pixels are kind of floppy right there or vague or it's not delineated well, then he's like, ah, you're an AI. So what's interesting is he doesn't have any video of himself on there. I'm really curious, like, you know, why don't you put some video of yourself and let's check you to see if you are an AI. But no, there's no video of himself. There are some channels that say Adele and Sam Smith are the same person. You know, I've seen a lot of videos lately where people are just like going, this person looks like this person, and this person. And the ironic thing is nowadays I kind of see it. I'm like, man, you know, they could be. Now, I'm not going to go that far and say I think they are, but... Yeah, actually, you're right, sweetheart. The more I think about Matt being an AI, the more funny it is. Like, I don't know if anybody even has enough imagination to, like, fabricate a Matt. Like, I just think that it has to be organic, because he just... I'm on there with his cat. Like, and he's like, oh, the cat is being mean to me. It takes too much imagination. I don't know if there's enough imagination on Earth right now to create a Matt out of a script. He doesn't fit any of the stereotypes. Okay, so where am I anyway? Oh, this one. This one I actually was talking to Life Matrix a tad on email, and we were talking about the skull. Let's see. I should probably do this one on Google. And I did notice a change. When I was looking at it in order... Ooh, that's creepy. Wow, are these real? So you can get I think that's a real one, human foot for $260. Frankly, that's not that bad for real human bones. Ooh. Okay, here's the one. This one is a cast one. I was kind of looking at this here. So these little fetal skulls get creepier and creepier. Now there's this weird thing on the chin, and that's kind of like, this is not the world's highest quality cast, obviously, but what's going on with that? Like, what is this? I'm gonna have to look that up now. I just saw that. All right. So what I need is a side view, I think. All right, here is a good example of it. Now I've kind of talked about how I don't remember these kind of points out the side over here being so pointy like this. But what I notice now is the chin. The chin is getting so pointy on some of these. I don't remember ever there being like almost like a spike coming out of the chin area. Like there was some x-rays that were just downright pointy. There's another one. See how pointy it is? So we were kind of discussing how the nose on a lot of people just looks more pushed in, and now there's these big cheek lines here. And I was telling him how, as a child, I don't remember that being like that. Like, we didn't have these big folds of skin right here. And you would only see that like in a really old person who had developed wrinkles, and they weren't that deep. But now you can, even like a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, most of them will have these cheek lines coming off the nose that makes the cheeks all puffy. And I think it's because this area has pushed out, and this area, the chin, has pushed out. And so like the face is out here and here, but the nose is looks more pushed in. You can see there's like a dent now in here. So it just, basically the nose is coming from further back in the skull, and it's pushing in, and then you make these folds here. But there was actually an x-ray here. Okay, here. Ugh. So this is supposed to be a real x-ray. So look at how pointy that chin is. I've actually seen some that looks almost like there's a spike there. Ugh. Look at how fat those vertebrae are getting. Look at how long these are. Wow, look, it goes all the way out. These continue to get fat. It's been a while since I looked at these. They're huge. Wow. I swear they've gotten bigger. I know these things just keep changing because I do have like parts, rib bones and stuff, and I still see things changing on them. You know, it'll be a batch I bought a year ago, and I'll pull them out, and they'll be, now there's a little nub here, there's a little, just little changes. All right, this one. See, look how pointy that one is. Oop, where'd it go? Oh, here we go. Look at how pointy right there is. The other thing I've noticed in recent years is the teeth on most of the skulls now kind of, they used to just come straight down like this. But now they're like this, with the front being that way. So they kind of, almost all the teeth are kind of angled that way. So I kind of just feel like, to me, every time I look at it, I'm like, that's defective. Why is their teeth pushing out like that? Because they used to just come straight in like this. That really shows it here. Ugh, it could be. See how it, I don't know if you can see on there, but they angle forward. And it looks inefficient to me, but you know, the roots are so long now, so maybe that makes it work. But I feel like the teeth are always going like this now instead of like this in the old days, because that's the shape they have now. There we go. But the roots, look at the roots. They're so long now. Because the gum will be here. So only this nub is coming out. Then there'll be gum. Then apparently there's bone, and then the root through there. Pointy, pointy. Okay, here's another one. That one does not have the lower jaw. Done that one. Okay, that one's not real, so we won't there. All right. There we go. So this is the kind of thing I was seeing, and I have looked at x-rays before, but I don't remember anything looking like that. I'm not sure what's going on to make it so pointy. I mean, I'm assuming that there's still some bone in here. Also, maybe it's a little less dense, but the whole thing is kind of crazy. I mean, it's not like this is the first time I've looked at a chin on an x-ray. What the heck is that? Like, It almost looks like he has a little beak coming over his nose. That's weirder than weird. Let's see here. All right, I guess that was a tooth. See, again, these teeth, they come over the top. It's freaking me out. It's getting worse or better or whatever it is, but again, look at how pointy that guy is. So I'm assuming that's the point of the x-ray, but look at, again, pointy nose, pointy chin, fang coming over the top. All right, this one is absolutely, hopefully this comes up. Oh, it doesn't. But it really shows it here. This is with the mouth open. Look at that. We're already the aliens. All right, so I'm assuming there's cartilage here. So in the old days, we didn't have this little bone shelf. And it's interesting. So I think in the past also, we would see the skin more closely adhere to the bone under it. It feels like that's changed a lot. So like the bone has changed, but the skin stays the same more, and so there's more of a variation. Hides the bone changes. You can see how I think this area was just out more before. So this is sunk in, but then you've got this shelf thing. And now it looks like there's some kind of extra thickening here on the chin that makes on the x-ray that shows up a lot more. It's still pointier, but then it also shows up more. Now that makes sense that there'd be real high density right there, because you know you're gonna bang that area more than like maybe back here or something. But see, now look at how these teeth are coming over the top. It's crazy town. I feel like that part right there has changed for me, that I don't remember just seeing it look like that so much. But also this part being extra dense and extra pointy, I don't remember that showing up like that on an x-ray. So those are some changes that I see. And that was it. Yeah, see, it's showing up on so many of them. That tooth coming over the top, that's kind of freaking me out even more than the chin, actually. I hadn't seen that until now. That person has an underbite. And underbites weren't so weird before. It's just crazy. Yeah. We are aliens. See, it's looking kind of monkey-like. I think they're getting more like us. We're getting more like them. Although I have to say the changes have definitely slowed down from before. As far as the skull changes. So, does that mean we're kind of getting to the, like, are we getting close to the final form, at least for now? That we're not still shifting so much on the skulls? Alright, so I want to do a fetal skull here. Because those things have changed a lot. So I remember fetal skulls as looking more like regular skulls. They kind of look like turtle skulls or something now. So you have that sharp line right there in the front. They really do look like aliens. They got these weird fringes over on the side. But the main change for me is the last time I looked at these, I don't remember this like Fisher point thing right here. I mean, there's been other changes going way back, but that's the one I'm seeing today. It really looks like a snapping turtle skull or something. Oh, you know what the other thing I would say is, I do remember this, I think they're calling that the fontanelle, the soft spot on the top. I do remember it being there, but I don't remember it coming all the way down so far like that. Like, so dark and obvious. Let's see. This is a real one. Oh, you know, and the other thing I don't remember is this. It really is pushed in at the top. The front view, I don't remember it like caved like that. So there really is a, so that was more like that was just a smaller hole for me before, I think is the point I'm trying to say. Like, it hadn't fused yet, but it wasn't like this gaping hole. Ugh, look at that one. So I don't remember like this. But now you can see there's a lot like that. Okay, so those are just some recent changes I've noticed. Definitely more subtle. Somebody say something about the ear hole. I do feel like the ear hole is bigger. My left ear is plugged since my 14-hour flight from Toronto. The odd thing is my hearing is perfect, but my ear won't pop. So I think that's pressure differential behind the eardrum going back down that eustachian tube, which connects down here. So if you can get yourself to yawn, and kind of go like, then that one is tough for me because I don't have a lot of like special abilities with my, like I can't curl my tongue and I can't do this and that, but that some people can do. But I can pop my ears on command. So that's one thing I've read about how you get your ears to pop, but I just send the. So basically, when you yawn, the upper palate here underneath the inside the mouth on the top, the upper palate will kind of shift a little when you yawn, and then it'll open up the hole that goes along the eustachian tube to the back of the ear. And if you open that, then it equalizes the pressure, and that should release the ear, unless there's some kind of fluid buildup or something in there. But as long as it's clear in there, then. So that's why you try to induce a yawn, because the yawn will tend to bring up that upper palate for just a second. Or like chew gum or something. Anything to try to get that upper palate to come up. I have that feeling of a plugged ear. So what can happen is that tube back there, the eustachian tube, it can get like minor infections, like if you have a cold or something, and it can get clogged. And then you can't clear it just by popping it because there's junk in there. Or there could be junk in the ear, but... Someone was talking the other day about Neanderthals had telepathy. So, I don't know. I mean, who knows about that? But we're finding in the timeline all the time, like, new evidence. Sometimes it's old new. Sometimes it's new. Evidence that Neanderthals were, like, highly intelligent. They did cave paintings. They had tools. I think I just saw one the other day. Tools. So, back in the day, though, they were like, that was an insult. You're a Neanderthal. And now the story is, we interbred with them. We interbred with the Denisovans. So, I don't know, opening up for a lot of variation in the DNA. Okay, so talk about earwax in the ear. You know what I do is I just get a dropper some 3% hydrogen peroxide that costs like $1 at the store. Drop some of that into your ear and then kind of palpate the outside of the ear to kind of smoosh it around. Keep your head tilted, because if you turn it back, the hydrogen peroxide will run out. Unless you have like a perforated eardrum or something, if it's just wax and everything's fine in there other than the wax, then it'll start like dissolving it, and you'll even hear the bubbling in there as it does it. And when you push it around, it kind of helps. And so I'll just watch TV and let it sit in there for a while and poke it around, and then take the dropper and slurp the fluids back out, and there'll be earwax in there. One time I had my ear clogged for months and months, and it took like 3 times of doing that. I did it once a day, and the third day it was out, it cleared, and suddenly I could hear. So if it's that, so most of those over-the-counter ones, those removal systems, are mostly hydrogen peroxide anyway. It's the main ingredient. So if you think it's earwax, if you're doing that and a lot of wax is coming out, then it might be earwax. Because if you don't have much in there, then it's not going to be a ton dissolve in there. You can see pieces of earwax in there if you do this. So basically, you're slurping it back out with the little pipette, the dropper. Now, make sure you don't stuff the dropper too far into your ear, and that's probably one of the reasons why they make the specialized things so you can't push them in. So this is only for people who can be trusted not to stuff the thing in their ear too far. So the hydrogen peroxide actually dissolves the wax and loosens it. So it like scientifically does work. 3%. It's the 3% stuff at the store. I mean, I don't know about other countries, but in the US, there's always like the drugstore will always have a shelf of 3% hydrogen peroxide because it's often used for disinfecting. And then they'll have like the 90% alcohol. So yeah, it doesn't hurt or anything. It's relaxing. Sometimes I just kind of squish it in and out a little bit with the pipette to just kind of like slosh it around a lot. I use 3% hydrogen peroxide for wax only with a Q-tip. Yeah. If it's bad, I just, go to town. So then when you think you've gotten like a lot out, then just put a tissue paper there and then straighten it out, and then it should come out. And the hydrogen peroxide dries pretty good, so. If it's really bad, I'll just do it like 3 times in a row. Oh, you tried the yawning thing, it didn't work. Yeah, I don't know, you might have like, there might be a little congestion in the eustachian tube there or something. Lord Frieza's final form. That's creepy you said that, because I've often said that the way the abdomens are changing, the muscle structure, and how there's like not just a 6-pack but an 8-pack, and it looks like how I remember Lord Frieza looking. But then I went back to look at Lord Frieza, and the Lord Frieza image is not how I remembered it. So I was like, so we did change into Lord Frieza, but Lord Frieza changed into something else. I don't know. My next move is buying some alcohol and drinking it. Maybe that will pop my ear. I don't think I've heard that working for ears. Maybe you won't care that your ear is unpopped, but... Carbamide peroxide otic for ears. Are you sure there's not just like a bunch of hydrogen peroxide on that? Because almost all of the formulas I've read for loosening earwax is, it's like 90% hydrogen peroxide. Doctor told me hydrogen too. You get the 3%. I don't know. It's like that's the stuff that's in almost all the over-the-counter stuff is already 90% hydrogen peroxide, and everybody knows use it. Never had a problem. I don't know that drinking beer will work for clogged ear, but it doesn't hurt to try. That's funny. All right, here we go. What's next? All right, did you... you know, every time I see some of these little dinky things, and I'm like, should I even say it? Because I know it's like a stupid little thing. Like those weird time shifts and like I thought I sent that email and I didn't. I'm like, well, maybe I just... totally stupid that day. I don't know, but then a bunch of other people have the same thing, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not. I mean, so this is another one of those. I'm like, well, maybe I'm just totally stupid. But I got some new quarters, like brand new ones, given to me as change. And, you know, I'm in my 50s, and I get this quarter, and it's not like I've never had a brand new quarter before. I do not remember them being this shiny. They are so shiny. I'm like, well, did they change their processes? I looked online. I cannot find anything about them being shinier now. And they're like, other people on there going, wow, it's so shiny. And then they're like, oh, no, that's just how it is. You would think the experts would say, oh, the new processes make them shinier. But yeah, I got these. I think you can see them. I was trying to see how it looked, and it looked very bluish when I put it up, but I will try anyway. But they're just super shiny. Super shiny. So, I mean, is it me, or are they just way shinier than I remember them? The other thing is the edges of the coins. Again, there's that little tiny lip on the edges of the coins. And I've said this before, that lip used to be like a millimeter. It was like a significant border around the coins, like a millimeter. And now it is like almost like a hair's thickness. To me, the coin looks like unfinished because it doesn't have its border anymore. And even the old coins are like that. So it's... definitely, that is actually more strong to me than any of the others. I first noticed it on the pennies, but now I'm looking on these nickels too, and like the nickel border is even more gone than the other borders. Just that around the ring on them. And even on the side where they haven't changed anything, which is like the side with the White House on it. I mean, it doesn't, it's not... it's this edge right here. I just remember that being like a millimeter thickness, and it's just not. Unfortunately, the camera is not doing a very good job of emphasizing it and focusing on it. But so I don't know. So these are just quarters. These are the new quarters. Have two different heads on them instead of having the White House on the back like we're used to. There are two different women that are on there. So there's a head of, I don't even know who it is, frankly. And keeping with the times, one of them doesn't even look that female, but anyway, yeah, just they're really shiny. Different earth, different coins. Yeah. Yeah, it's that edge that gets me. I swear that it was like it was a nice thick outline, and I liked it. And they look unfinished to me. Like they look like they got cut off in the edges or something. My autocorrect is very weird since last week. It changes my words to nonsense things. Has anybody had this problem with Mac? It keeps changing problem to problemlem. You know, other people were talking a little bit about that last week, and I was talking about how it would change it to porn words, but that's been an ongoing problem for a while. So I don't know, with the shift, maybe people just can't, I don't know. So I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming that when they do the updates on the phones, there'll be like updates on stuff like spell check and autocorrect, right? I mean, don't they sometimes do, so they like add new words that or something? I mean, I would imagine, because if they don't, then it is extra weird that. So was somebody just, was it Friday night and they wanted to go home and they didn't proof their work? And I have definitely noticed that, like, when you read articles now, there be, like, it's not at all unusual to see a typo, and it's usually words that autocorrect wouldn't get. Like, instead of using fathom, they use phantom, for instance. I've noticed that for some reason lately, a bunch of people, like, you say, I can't fathom why he would do that, and they'll say, I can't phantom why they would do that. And spell check won't get that because both of them are words. But I just see it all the time, stuff like that all the time now in supposedly professionally written material. So it just seems like the kids are just relying heavily on spell check, and if spell check doesn't get it, then nobody gets it. And I guess there's no more proofreading worth the darn. Because in the old days, I mean, you'd see the entire newspaper. There would not be a single mistake on the entire newspaper. But now it's like... Yeah, actually, that is interesting. Now you think of it, fathom turned to phantom, but it's not. I mean, like, if you look in the dictionary, it's not a legit use. Now, maybe next week that'll change. I don't know, but Michael Russum agrees on the edges. I'm so glad, because it's actually bugging me, and that is, I keep seeing it. It keeps getting worse, and nobody agrees with me. I'm like, no, damn it, this is changing. All right, what do we got here? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes. Oh, what is that thing on the front? I better cover that. I've had this one for a number of weeks, but I was kind of saving it because I had an interesting look for I could use it as a thumbnail. So that is related, that blob thing is related to this concept that I have never heard of until a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, this is kind of a known thing, and it's bizarre. It's exactly the kind of thing I would have just loved to know about my whole life, because it's totally bizarre, mystery from space kind of thing. So it's called star jelly. It is a gelatinous substance sometimes found on grass and less commonly on branches of trees. According to folklore, it is deposited on Earth during meteor showers. It is described as a translucent or grayish-white gelatin that tends to evaporate shortly after having fallen. So, of course, people go, oh, it's frogs' eggs or jelly fungi. And we have so many weird creatures now here that could get blamed on. But it'd still be pretty strange if you had a meteor shower and then suddenly there was star jelly all over the place. And so I kind of feel like this is sneaking into the timeline somehow, that it's... And we've seen that lightning has changed a lot. We had the slow lightning a couple weeks ago. Described as a certain fatty substance emitted from the Earth. This is history. That is commonly called a star which has fallen. The English Latin dictionary around 1440 has an entry for stair slime, with a Latin equivalent given as asub. I just dropped my lid. Oh well, I'll find it later. So this goes way back, and unless they're gonna somehow say, like, okay, the slime molds all come out when there's a meteor shower, I mean, obviously in the old world, I would have just said, oh, it's just folklore and some kind of creature. But, so that thing that I have on there is an instance of unidentified star jelly, I believe. And so, nobody really, is that star jelly or is it frog's eggs? I don't know for that particular photo, but just the idea that there is this funny jelly stuff that shows up after meteor storms, I just thought was really interesting. So it's jelly, not jellyfish. Yeah, see, that's exactly the kind of weird woo that I would have for sure remembered. And I just feel like, would this not be like on every YouTube in the universe going back like forevers? I mean, it's in the wiki going way back in history. Jungle penguins. Yeah, jungle penguins. Tree fish. Yep. And we also have those dirt fish now. Like they can just live in the mud and the dirt and travel across the desert. The fish, they're leaving the ocean and they're crawling on land. Lawn shrimps, grass jelly. Yeah, this is not grass jelly. This is star jelly. Grass jelly is a yummy food item, like an Asian food item. So grass jelly is yummy. I don't know about, so I'm just curious what, I kind of feel like everything that's weird coming into the timeline, all of those just keep growing. So now when I see this weird stuff, I'm like, it's probably going to grow. It's probably going to become more of a thing. So that's another reason why I really like to highlight these, because we can watch their evolution. Okay, got that. All right, more weird history stuff. I'm pretty sure I didn't cover this one before, but who knows what I covered in what timelines. I'm like, what timeline did this come from? No. All right, wait. How do I even look that up? I stumbled onto this one, but I didn't save the name of an article. So apparently now in history, we did the Halloween stuff for Thanksgiving. We would dress up. I've never heard of this. We dressed up in costumes. The kids would parade down the street and try to weasel candies out of people. And so they said somehow it got switched to Halloween. The jumblings of holidays is not exclusive to contemporary times. The jumbling of holidays. I'm like, we jumble holidays now? I don't think so. Turns out that people all across America used to wear costumes on or near Thanksgiving, which effectively created a mashup of Halloween and Turkey Day. And they showed kids like in costume, Thanksgiving maskers. Maskers? Wait, they're called maskers? Oh, no, I did not see that. So these kids are dressed up as older people. I did not see they were called maskers because that. Okay, maskers, masquerade, okay. Oh, no. You know, you just have to laugh. Again, I feel like the current stuff's going backwards in time. So, but how did it, like, if you have a habit every year of, like, say, dressing up for Halloween, how would you suddenly get the whole population en masse to switch that to a different day? I just don't see that happening in an organic way. Certainly not over the course of just a few years. Masking and mumming for the holidays. That wasn't even that long ago. So 1930s, they said? I mean, like, so old people now should remember that if that happened. Thanksgiving maskers. This is so wrong. They called it maskers. You could see why that bugs me. Mummers. So it was a few, like, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago that I started hearing about the Mummers Parade. But frankly, I didn't hear about that going way back either. I certainly have never heard about these Thanksgiving maskers. Late November traditions of clementing and caturning may have contributed to Thanksgiving masking and thus to trick-or-treat. So I guess all these people are trying to figure out how Thanksgiving maskers changed to Halloween. All right, there they are. Thanksgiving maskers circa 1910. So the story, though, is they would parade down the street during the day trying to get candy, and that changed to the Thanksgiving Day parades that we have now. Instead of kids dressing up, they would just be a parade for the main town. Thanksgiving maskers scramble for pennies, circa 1910. So, yeah, I don't know, crazy town. I mean, the narrative doesn't even have an explanation on how this would happen. And, you know, in like less than a lifetime then, because in 1930s, 1910, they did this. So did they do it twice a year? Did they have it on Thanksgiving and Halloween? Because they're kind of saying, well, how did it switch to Halloween? Well, did we do both of them? When did Halloween costumes begin? Let me see if I can even find that. The origins of costumes of Halloween can be traced back over 2,000 years to the pagan festival of Samhain. Okay, so then was Thanksgiving also a pagan festival? So let's see. That would be like 2 costume events in 2 months, because you have October 31st would be the Samhain thing that goes back 2,000 years. And then in November, the 4th week is what we're at now. It used to be the 3rd week. No, it's the 3rd week now. It used to be the 2nd week. Oh my God, can't remember. But it's pushed back 1 week. They do it again? That's how it would be? They're changing the course. Yeah, I don't know. They or it's changing or something. Good point, Michael. Why am I not surprised? It seems like Christmas is becoming more Halloween-like and more horror movies released. Yeah. Actually, you're right. Now that I think about it, that Halloween stuff is invading all the holidays, because there's tell horror stories on Christmas. Upside down Christmas trees. We've got this like Grinch thing getting really popular. And then you had that, what is that evil Christmas guy? I didn't remember him until a couple years ago. That wasn't there. The alien of Ariake Sea. Japan xenomorph like delicacy. I think I had a video of these where they didn't. Ugh, those are gross. Where they had like a live one on a plate and it was all like, and you know, that was what, a couple years ago. You know how they like to eat fresh food in Japan. So there was an image of somebody and that was on the plate and then it was like chomping at them. And so when I had the video on, I'm like, well, what is that thing? Like, what is it? And there was no explanation anywhere of what it was. But now it's got a name and stuff. I guess it's this thing. Wara subo, an eel-like fish that for obvious reasons is known as alien of Ariake. So maybe that creepy viral video was the start of these things. That was part of it. When I watched that video, I'm like, well, is that real? Because usually when you go into the comments, somebody is going to go on there and say, oh, this is blah, blah, blah. This is what this creature is. But there were none like that. There was just no explanation anywhere of what they were. So now there is the explanation. It's these things. Ooh, Canada has feral pigs now. That should be fun. Reading some of those stories to see if there's anything good in there. All right. So, yeah, so that is a good point. So it's basically Halloween is invading everything. So the pagan concept is invading. Yeah, that's a good observation. I hadn't put that together, but it's kind of obvious now after you said it. Yeah, Krampus, that's that evil guy, right? The evil Christmas dude. So so for me, Thanksgiving was supposed to be that day, you know, to celebrate being friends with the Native Americans, which actually is rather ironic now after what happened to them, but... Or were the holidays like this before they changed it to the way we know now? I don't think they were that way for me, because there was just like, now you talk to like people and they're like, oh yeah, it was always that way. So if it had just come out now, then people should be like, wow, we found out that it was, you know, that it used to be different. But no, it's snuck in here Mandela style is my point. Like, now you talk to people and they'll be like, oh yeah, I always did that. And like a lot of people. Oh yeah, it was the money bags AI is backwards in time. Yeah, I know. Money bags. I'm going to have to, from now on, it's going to be very hard not to joke about money bags being an AI. I'll try to keep it to a dull roar, but I don't know if I can do it. All right, got that one. That one. Hermit. Frog skulls. Star jelly. I have 9 minutes. All right, I'll do this one. Okay, so I've said on here quite a number of times that I felt like the preserved fossil things just keep improving. Like, it used to be that you just have bones, and then now they're like, they would find frozen mammoths. Okay, but they were frozen, right? But then they started finding just like perfectly preserved in peat bogs. And they started to look more and more lifelike. I had one on a couple weeks ago, and now this one shows up that I don't remember. Wait, is that the right one? Oh, this is a different one. But basically the story now is that the Chinese, the ancient Chinese, were better at preserving bodies than the Egyptians. So it used to be, for me, the Egyptians were the only one who knew the secret, and they had to remove the organs, and they had figured out this, and aren't they geniuses? But now it's like, they kind of suck compared to the Chinese. And of course we don't know how they did it. But this chick apparently was some rich, wealthy, kind of pudgy woman, was preserved such that you can move her. She like looks like she just died 5 minutes ago, apparently. Like, she can be moved and you don't break anything, and the skin is all soft, and it's a crazy town. So it's Ancient Lady Di. Like, was that kind of a joke on Diana? This is a 2,000-year-old. So there's no like wrappings on her either. Like the ancient Egyptians would wrap the mummy. They had to remove the organs and stuff. But now, oh no. They even know what her last meal was. I think it was melons, if I remember right. Revealed 3 tombs dedicated to the family of Li Kang, the Marquis of Dai, a nobleman who boasted significant power, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the face is a little, but basically they said she's like soft. Her veins are still filled with congealed blood, and most of her soft tissue remains intact. Her wrinkled body looks more like a fresh cadaver on a mortuary table than an ancient mummy from an ancient dynasty. The body was found cocooned within the innermost of 4 lacquered coffins, which were draped in a beautiful silk painting. Her body was dressed in 18 layers of silk and linen clothing. Okay, so there is some kind of covering. This shielded her incredibly well from outside forces. The coffin was filled with this strange clear liquid that turned brown after being exposed to air. Some simply believe this liquid is her bodily fluids, but others suspect it might have been a traditional Chinese herbal solution that perhaps helped with the preservation process. You would think that maybe they would take a sample of those fluids. What kind of archaeologists are these? Chinese scientists gave the body a detailed autopsy. She was in poor health. They actually don't talk about moving her on this one, but in other articles they did. So assuming it didn't change since last week, she can be moved. Nobody knows why this ancient mummy is so well preserved. The ancient Chinese method of preservation was not as invasive as that of Egyptians, who removed many of the internal organs. Despite the Egyptians being the most well-known for their mummies, the Chinese were arguably the most successful at it. Okay, hopefully it didn't change, but I know that they were saying that they could move her, and I didn't find it on this one, but ancient Chinese secret. I hope that doesn't become like racist, because that's my favorite way to weasel out of stuff when people like try to like. I have a lot of customers that ask me my business secrets. Well, how do you preserve that? How do you solve that? I'm like, I'm not telling my competitors how I figured out certain things, because some of those I figured out by myself. It's not well known. So I always say, oh, it's an ancient Chinese secret, because I don't want to say I ain't telling you, because it just seems so kind of rude. So I just say, oh, sorry, ancient Chinese secret, which means I ain't telling. We have no idea how traditions were in 1600s or earlier. True, but this was like 1930 that they did this for the Thanksgiving thing. So that's one lifetime ago or less. Your great-grandparents that are older should be able to remember dressing up for costumes for Thanksgiving. My brain is having trouble saying it. Yeah, we talked about recall vector. I basically, I'm just saying, like, it's his opinion. That's it. It's his opinion. I don't think so, but I don't think I'm an AI. I don't think Quantum of Conscious is an AI, and I don't think Moneybags is an AI. And I don't know who else is going to be accused of being an AI, but reminds me of that little girl who died and his father put him in a glass coffin, and she is still like she was alive. Yeah, see, but there wasn't stuff like that before for me. That's the thing. Ooh, I think I've had her on. I swear she looks more realistic every time. So how old is Rosalia Lombardo? So that Lady Di was 2,000 years old. Let's see. This one is only from, like, she's only like 100 years old. On December 1920, after her second birthday, she died. Embalming took place. She was transported to the catacombs of Capuchins. Why was it so well preserved? For years, the mix of chemicals was unknown. Then one day, the descendants of the Solaria family remembered that she had kept an old manuscript. And the formula was there. They used glycerin, formalin, zinc salt, alcohol, and salicylic acid. Not that complicated. Added paraffin, duly dissolved in ether. Injected directly through an incision in the femoral artery. So you could have it done now, I guess. Okay, but yeah, that's another example of it. The reason I like the dye one is just because they're now apparently you could move them. they're like becoming like little Gumby dolls, which also is pretty creepy because at some point, like, I mean, are we going to get to where that storyline that they're just like in internal sleep and like the Buddhists say that they'll just like they're not really dead, they're just meditating really hard? I mean, like, are we gonna get there? I don't know. I mean, things are just so crazy. It just totally sounds like Crazy Town, but I just don't know what the limits of this Crazy Town is gonna be now. Now my Mac has changed secret to Secondret. I don't know what to tell you. My grandparents were born 1900, 1920. My in-laws in the 1930s. Yeah, you should ask them about some of this crazy stuff. Especially that one, because that should have been around. Yeah, we're almost dead. The giant, yeah, because that's becoming more realistic too. I mean, more and more talk about the giants. Now, if you think about it, it's really not, it's not even that weird compared to all this other crazy stuff like time shifts, that there were very large humans back in the day. Yes, I did color my hair again. It's the color I always do it, but it kind of fades out over time. So, yeah, so there having been giants is not the weirdest thing we've experienced, because I don't really see any reason why we couldn't just have, like, extra large humans. Yeah, I don't know. Anybody who has quite old grandparents that were, like, in America or anywhere else they supposedly did that, check in with them and see if they remember any of this crazy stuff. Anyway, yes, it's time for me to go. So you know the drill. Think good thoughts. I very much appreciate you coming. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.